So outside of the broadband weapons and tactics that are used to suppress us in so many ways, and outside of the illusions of what we accept as normal and what we accept as who and what we are, before I started to question reality on different levels, I wasn't aware of the various weapons that are out there. I wasn't aware of the depths of how racism affects us. I wasn't aware of the depths of the education system before I saw that they were literally lying to us about the universe itself, the earth itself, the way you see the stars, the sun, the moon, your beginnings, the Big Bang, your theories sold to you as facts. I wasn't aware of that. And those ideas, those theories are the infrastructure on how we perceive this reality. Remaining unaware of those details keeps you in a certain space. Before I was aware of a lot of these realizations, everything around me was affected. My confidence, my awareness, my stress level was way worse than I've never been like a highly stressed individual, but the frequency of stress, the peaks, the highs and the lows of reality, they're nowhere near what they used to be. There's no need to be arguing with people. There's no need to be out there with the megaphone on the street. None of that is there. And I was that guy. I was there in the beginning of day one of the Occupy movement with a bullhorn in front of the Bank of America building, and then later on in front of the Federal Reserve Bank, yelling to just random people, yelling to nobody, thinking that was it. What does that do to you as a person? What does that do to those around you? On one level, it does help people get to see things a certain way, but on another part of that level, people are getting further and further into the idea of what change is supposed to look like. And that's what I want to get into with this video, is to get into more details and depth within the system itself. So you have the internal and the external in reference to my approach, why I do what I do on this channel. But then there's the intelligence within the system, the manipulating of the people through their beliefs and trust in the system. And even more so these days, the extreme complexities of the controlled oppositions that are out there. Because you have a controlled opposition inside yourself. I see myself when I was in the Occupy movement, yelling and screaming on the streets. Who am I yelling to? What am I asking for? I have to have some kind of belief in the depths of empathy with this system. There are none. So I was very much so in the front lines of what I would call today a controlled opposition. Protesters yelling for change. If you have any hope, if you have any trust in this system that was built on the blood and the bones, the murder and the genocide, the rape, the theft of land, the theft of resources, these systems that people cherish so dearly to this day were built on the deepest, darkest depths of anti-empathy. They don't even have the capacity nor the inclination to even sympathize with you, let alone empathize with you. You are seen as food, meat. You can get into the underground stories of them literally seeing you as physical food. But from a non-physical space, your energy is being harvested. What do you think social media is? Consuming. Some people are aware of these non-physical entities that are acting behind the scenes and within certain people. How I'm seeing it is that the electronics that people are using are the bridge between the physical and the non-physical, and those entities who work, the intelligent entities who are lacking that empathy, who work behind the scenes of these political puppets and these controlled oppositions that are out there, harvesting your time, your focus, your energy, like gas in a car. This is why social media and everything connected to that is so important. is being pushed so much to the masses because they have to get you to generate the foundation, the frame of your own enslavement, to enslave yourself. The education system used your belief in the idea of humanity evolving with technology, with modern Western so-called civilization, sold you the busted ass beliefs of coming from monkeys to humans. And people to this day still believe this shit. This is why people can trust and love so much people like Elon Musk and Neil deGrasse Tyson and all these other people, because they are the smartest monkeys in the universe. They're seen as demigods. This is what the system is used to maintain. This is why fear is pushed so much. There's also a fear of intelligence. Place your average civilian in communication, in some kind of conversation with people like Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson. They will immediately tuck tail and not even question any kind of reality. They will sit there and receive anything that these individuals tell them. And they can lie. They can make up the biggest lies that they could think of. And people, the average person, will sit there, this is what your TV shows are. Your documentaries, all these space and universe documentaries out there. Show them some little pretty colors and paintings and CGI graphics and some rendering of images that make you feel a certain way. Here we are in this pale blue dot. Oh, look at us. Like that image, that meme that goes around on Instagram or wherever that shows like a galaxy, and then they have like an arrow pointing somewhere and say, "This is you. You're right here." And then, now are things in perspective? Look how small you are. You're just a speck in this infinite everything. Basically, you're nothing. This is what the Big Bang is. Just a big bang of mistakes that happened to come together randomly to make a Prius. So as long as this system stays afloat, stays alive, you're going to have the majority of people fighting against you to protect this system. And it's that ignorance that allows it to stay afloat. It's that ignorance that keeps people and families separated. They've compartmentalized intelligence, creating this ego and pride in one particular crumb of realization. This is what your degrees are. People priding themselves in having a master's degree, a bachelor's degree, a PhD in one particular vision of reality. That is their focus. That becomes who they are. And that pride, that ego, keeps them from venturing out into other realizations in the reality. So you have all these people who are out there. Let's say that even if they were giving you information that was beneficial to you in the education system, the system, the way it's designed itself, even if you were getting positive, very useful information about the truth of what's going on in this system, or even fractions of the truth of what's going on in this system, the way it's designed would still have people enslaved. The lies within the system are just extra credit. They're just something to make sure that the system remains in charge. Because like I said, if people were getting information that was beneficial, that was truthful, the way it's compartmentalized in the individual to only focus on one thing is enough to control people. Because you can put these people over there, those people over there, these people who aren't even in that system, they stay over there, keep them completely enslaved, completely at the bottom of the barrel, so they can spend their whole lives trying to reach the middle of the barrel, and the people in the middle of the barrel don't even try to move anywhere because they're just happy not being at the bottom of the barrel, and they pride themselves in being on the top of something. So they don't even have to try and be at the top of the barrel. They just sit on top of the chaos of the crabs at the bottom of the barrel fighting themselves and priding in survival mode, picking apart the limbs of each other down at the bottom of the barrel. People in the middle, sitting on top of the people at the bottom, spend their time looking the other way, looking up. It's the pride of the middle so-called class, that holds the ignorance and holds this system afloat. It's the fear and the survival of the people at the bottom that allows this system to stay afloat. And there's a certain amount of fear of the people at the top because they don't want to be held responsible for maintaining this system of control. So they have a certain amount of fear. But the biggest thing that they are involved in is maintaining ignorance of the entire system. And they maintain that ignorance by maintaining your trust and your belief in the system. People on the bottom and the people in the middle. And your education system, all these other systems, your idea of freedom of speech, protesting, the Second Amendment, bearing arms, like all this stuff, like these are just fairy tales. Yeah, let them feel like they're powerful, like they can fight back. Let them feel like they can speak. Can you speak? Are your words not censored? Are your protests not shut down? Are you not living in fear that if you bring about your weapons, that you will be shut down by this system? The biggest thing that's going on is people don't know what they're fighting for. Like I said, you have the ignorance and the fear. And then you have the perspective of know where to go. They have no drive. This is why I focus so much on the subjects that I focus on this channel. This is why I do what I do on this channel in reference to the crumbling of this system through the awareness, through bringing up the individual awareness, through bringing up the, I don't like using this word, but the collective awareness. Collective in a sense, not like a new age, oh, we're a collective, we're a one unit. No. Collective in a sense that there's a collective effort to control masses of people. There's a collective effort to destroy and profit from that destruction of people and land and resources and all levels of people, internally and externally. There's a collective effort there. So if I have the ability to share with people how to avoid their own self-destruction, I will do that. This is why I share so much about the depths of the system of racism, white supremacy, for one perspective. Let us do our own thing. This is what I want to get into with this video in reference to like the new age, pushing this idea of one humanity and this utopia and all that other shit. Did they ask us what we want? Do the new agers ask you what you want to do? Was there any discussion about this? No. They just jumped up on the podium and said, oh, well, things are messed up and we're going to make things better as one. Oh, what does that mean? Well, we're human, right? Okay. And things are bad. Yeah. And we want to make them better. Okay. For everybody. Okay. Together as one. All right. You don't want to do that? Wait, before we get into you saying what I should and shouldn't do, let's have a discussion on what it is that you really want to be doing to decide whether or not you're a part of some controlled opposition. And before we go anywhere, before we start building anything, has the old cancerous system been dealt with properly? Has that cancer been fully removed from the system? Absolutely not. They're not even interested in dealing with that cancer. They want to pour some dirt on top of the old body and just build another body on top of that and say they did it because it looks better. Like getting plastic surgery. There's not enough plastic surgery out there to deal with the downfalls that these people are dealing with, the psychological issues that these people are dealing with, the insecurities and the broken ass foundations that these people are dealing with. But this is what these so-called new agers want to do, and partially these truthers. And I'll get into that in a second, how there's really no difference. So I do what I can to share moves that I've made individually, internally and externally, that are very much mirrored in these larger groups of people that are out there doing things, making moves. Like I said, the controlled opposition exists inside of you. So if that's the case, you can really see these people, the ones that are their own worst enemy, are actually working with your enemy. And this is another thing that these so-called New Agers don't want to deal with at the same time. They're too blissed out to even own up to the fact that there is an enemy out there. They can't even conceptually, they can't say the word. Enemy. Well, that feels like low energy. How about I say it this way? Can you understand that there are individuals out there and masses of individuals out there who have zero empathy for even your fake ass idea of humanity? They have zero ability to feel anything for the land, for the people, for the resources, for the history of what has been done to the land and the people and the resources. They don't care. In fact, they're proud of it. They're proud of what their ancestors did. They're proud of what this system has done. These are the people that we're dealing with who are moving and manipulating these controlled oppositions out there, including your New Age movements. They're not stupid. And in order for people to break free from this parasite, this system has to crumble. If on mass scales, you can do it individually. You can break free for the most part. Not like there's this promised land, sort of like, enlightenment and awakening location that you can get to. No, you're constantly learning. You're constantly growing. So it's not to say that. But for the most part, breaking free of, for lack of a better term, like I spoke of in reference to the last video, the commercialization, the weight, the commercialized weight that has been put on us, the masses of people and the individual, holding on, not dealing with the depths of the system of racism and white supremacy internally and externally, but internally holding on to that weight with just, saying, I'm black, that's it, or I'm African American, that's it. Like, how much weight does that carry on the individual? It's weight, and it's also emptiness. It's empty weight that's there. You're hollowed out, and that hollowed out space weighs a lot because the empty space could be filled with your fullness. And to have your fullness be hollowed out means you're weighed down by emptiness. This is the nuts and bolts, the infrastructure of this system, to weigh you down with emptiness. Emptiness in believing in these theories, these lies, this trust and hope in this system. That's empty. That empty ass hope, that empty ass trust. How heavy is that shit? Look at how heavy the theories of this universe are. Look at how heavy it is in reference to what you think you are. You're nothing. You're a mistake, a Big Bang mistake. They even tell you and are proud of it. You're a speck on the speck in the universe. You're a speck of a speck. You're a speck on a speck in the whole galaxy. And you're part of the dumbest speck collection of specks in this universe. All the other people who are specked out on other planets and galaxies and other dimensions, all those other people, they are all more intelligent specks than your mistake speck ass. You're an insignificant speck. And not only insignificant, you're a dumb ass insignificant speck. Because all the other aliens, all the other extraterrestrials, whatever you want to call them, are smarter than you. They have better cars than you. That's why they put that dumbass illusion of Elon Musk sending a car into space. You really believe that he sent a sports car, put a sports car in the top of a rocket and shot it to Mars? That's like a fake spaceship. It's like, oh, this is the best we could do. He really did it? Oh, wow. And then what's that do for the person, for the company? Now you see like Tesla sports cars and the Tesla company as the future. He makes it more real because he's shooting rockets into space. Oh, it's sick. But like I said, people are so ignorant, so hollowed out. They follow it. They trust it. They believe it. So this system has to crumble before anything moves. It has to crumble, and it has to be cleaned up, because any little bit is going to fester and create fractures in the next foundation. This has to be done for the kids that are innocent, that are relying on us today. If you have kids, if you can even conceive the idea of taking care of kids, if you have any inclination to provide them food, to provide them shelter, to provide them security for their present moment and their future, then this is a part of that. Otherwise, what's the point? Not dealing with these issues right now is just setting them up for failure. It's cowardice. Because what happens is that we're acting like nothing's happening while we have the say so in what is important. So your so-called elders today who are avoiding a lot of this information because they want to pride themselves in what they've invested in this system. They feel proud because of what they've gotten back from this system. It's like talking shit about the company that made you a manager. You can't do that. No matter how bad the company is, you're a manager now because of that company. So you'll just let that company do whatever it's going to do. Say whatever it's going to say. And since you want to have some kind of position over those who are younger than you, more junior than you in that hierarchy of corporate levels or life in general, you have to remain ignorant, willfully ignorant of the connection that these corporations have with each other who are working against the future generation. The people that are alive right now have the ability to, if not do anything for the kids who are alive right now, at least set the tone or say something for the future generations. Your life is not that long. Like I said in the last video, you're a blip your entire life. 60, 70, 80, 90, even 100 years. That ain't shit. How many of those years are you going to be sitting in a corner somewhere drooling on yourself? How many of those years did you spend, with your diapers being changed and just ignorant, running rampant in your teens and your 20s, not knowing shit? That little speck of a speck in time that you do have time to do and say something, it's near nothing. This is why I do what I do. I know, I'm aware of this. I've had people close to me come and go, be here and then not be here, leave at early ages. People leave at very old ages, trapped in illusion, never saying nothing. Not because they didn't want to. Most of them just didn't know. They did what they could. But now with all this access of information and access of being able to communicate with each other, there's no excuse anymore. This is why people are hiding behind that. Oh, no, I don't get into all that. Now, we're going to talk about this. I'm going to do something about this. And this is why, like I said, people don't want to talk about the system because who and what they are is vested in that system. The pedestal that they stand on, that they hold themselves over other people, is held up by that system. So in many ways, you're going to have to deal with these people in one way or another. Some of these people will turn on you. Some of them have already turned on you. This is why these artificial labels and little groups that are put out there. Now, all of a sudden, all conspiracy theories and all information that isn't mainstream, they can ball you up and call you a Republican, call you part of some QAnon, call you a conspiracy theorist, all that bullshit that's out there. As soon as they can put you on a label on you, put you in a box, that makes it easier for the simpletons out there to hold themselves in the position of ignorance that makes them more comfortable. This is why all the mainstream media is out there, to create these labels, to create these boxes, to create these emotions that push you into those boxes. So this system has to go. And some people don't see it like that, but I do. I see it like that. Because think about this. This is like leaving this system the way it is like leaving a serial killer, a serial rapist, this the most extreme narcissists running rampant in like an elementary school. Just imagine like the janitor and the principal and the vice principal and like a few teachers in the biggest elementary school of the world. Like if the whole school was an elementary school, you had all those people like security guards, all of them. They were all rapists, murderers, pedophiles, killers, narcissists, maniacs, psychopaths. All those key members in that school were all dealing with that. We're all the most fucked up people that are out there. And people are saying, well, I think we should just, remodel the school. I think if we just remodel the school and get a few new teachers in here and change the schematic of what we want to do, instead of a globe school, we'll have a flat school. What are you going to do about those fucking rapists and those killers that are out there? They're still in the school. It's a cancer. It's a parasite. Not dealing with that, they will just continue to grow. And this is not to say that there needs to be some kind of grand awakening, like some kind of amazing enlightenment in this elementary school. No. We just have to first, if anything, first stop the bleeding. Stop the rape. Stop the killing. Stop the kidnapping. Stop all of this shit first before you start trying to build anything. This is why these fucking utopia pushers out there and all these fake ass new agers talking about, even some of these truthers talking about, oh, we need to do, first of all, stop these motherfuckers running around this school doing all this shit. The Catholic Church still ain't been dealt with, and their connection to all the churches around the world, all those fucking mainstream religions around the world, they ain't been dealt with. And they got so much fucking power and are so intertwined in the belief and the trust of these fucking people around the world. They even made movies about that shit. They even exposed that these damn priests that are out there, when they do this shit and they get caught in these churches, they get fucking promoted. They get moved to another church, moved to another area, and put in a higher position in the church. The most deepest, darkest shit, because they're in control of this school. And the most fucked up shit that you do, the higher you go. All these people, look at all those old Oscar ceremony videos of all those people sitting around Harvey Weinstein, all those people that were friends with the Maxwell lady and the other fucking dude and that island and the Bill Gates and all those people in those circles. These are fucking demons. And the New Agers and the truthers are not interested in this. They want to act like it doesn't exist. They want to act like it doesn't matter. They think if you focus any energy or perspective on that kind of information, that, oh, you're taking away from us being able to build a utopia. Because everything is energy, right? Where your attention goes, energy flows. All these fortune cookie ass fucking phrases out there with people. Like people like Ralph Smart, he's like a embodiment of that dumbass shit. As if that's the answer to everything. Energy flows where attention goes. That's why I said these people are more damaging than any good. If these New Agers and these truthers focused as much energy on the demolition, on the protecting of the kids, protecting of the future generations, through the demolition of this system, through the accountability, the holding these fuckers responsible for this shit. If they focus as much energy on that as they do with their utopia and all their energy goes where attention flows and all that other bullshit that's out there, if they did that, something would actually happen, but they don't. Because they haven't done that work yet. And they're too busy trying to sell you some shit. Sell you some crystals, some meditation, some other fucking thing that's just gonna be a concession. Their focus on that so-called building a utopia, being a better person, all that other shit, without any focus on the removing or the holding of responsible of this system, their focus, those two things, the focus on that, along with the ignorance of the other, is the definition of the controlled opposition. This is why those groups are supported. This is why they have your most spiritual people. I don't know, people who didn't see what I just shared, that video I shared from Russell Brand, where some magazine put Russell Brand as like in the top 10, like Oprah and the Pope and all these other fake ass people that are out there, put them as the most spiritual people in the world. Russell Brand. This is your controlled opposition. Just like they support these limited ass protests, these limited ass movements like Black Lives Matter and all that other shit, funded by George Soros, they support these New Age movements. It's the same thing. The New Age movement is just a bigger version of a Black Lives Matter movement. And in that supporting, in those movements, they're desensitizing you by having you blissed out, by having you one-sided, by having you not even acknowledge that a demolition needs to happen. It's a desensitizing of you. It's a priming of you. Because in that desensitizing, in that ignorance, the system is hoping that enough crumbs of that cancer is just left. Enough of these little pieces of the old foundation are just enough left so they can build off of that. So they can grow that cancer, keep that parasite alive. My focus with this channel is in the demolition and the rebuilding. Demolish those internal things that are weighing you down and hollowing you out. Demolish that shit. As an individual and as a people. That fake idea of humanity and all that fake bullshit out there, that's also a way to hollow you out. That needs to be demolished. And build yourself up with something. That something that I do from my own example is the building of and the realizing that the majority of us, the Copper tribe in the United States, are not from Africa, have very much land rights here. The idea of an African American is a fucking illusion. Why are you an African American, but so-called white people are not European Americans? Believing their storyline of the slave trade and all that other stuff, just to entertain it for a moment, if we all came over here at the same fucking time in that bullshit ass story, why the fuck are you called an African American, but they are not European Americans? Because they want to have control over this shit. Because it's a way to separate you from your connection to this land, and it's a way for them to have ownership and a connection to this land and to be called. This is why they sold that story. This is why people think when they think of an American, they think of a white person. When even the old definitions of an American was the people, the Copper people. This is the system rewriting history in these fake ass beliefs. Right under your own beliefs of who and what you think you are. The same perspective that happens with so-called Mexican Americans. Like it was said in Selena, we're not Mexican enough for the Mexicans and not American enough for Americans. It's exhausting. It's the same shit. African Americans are not African enough because we weren't from there for Africans, and we're not American enough for America. So you're dead. You have zero connection. But so-called white people, oh, they're just Americans. Look at that. Good old America. They're so American, they took the A away. They're just Americans. So like I said, the New Agers hide behind these empty-ass ideas of utopia. They don't bother asking you, the other groups that are out there talking about change. They don't network. They don't feel the need to network because they feel like they are at the top of the idea of forward progress because they are spiritual. This is why Russell Brand is out there. He's out there to tell you, don't even think about violence, and the only way that is forward is through spiritual movement. This is another form of desensitizing you, because if those are your beliefs, then you will not allow yourself to know to go to the depths of how fucked up things are. If you're only thinking about a utopia and you're only focusing on being nonviolent, then you will not allow yourself to see the violence that is inflicted upon you, that has been inflicted upon you, and is being primed to be inflicted upon future generations. Too busy being blissed out and lying to yourself. This is why people like Russell Brand are out there. Your Eckhart Tolles, your Mujis, your Sad Gurus, your Teal Swans, your Ralph Smarts, all those assholes they put in that magazine are the most spiritual people in the world. Spirituality is more complex. If you even want to go into that vague ass idea of whatever spirituality is, it is way more fucking complex than meditation and being nice and all that other shit. True spirituality has a very huge responsibility in dealing with entities like spiritual parasites. That's some deep spirituality. But none of these assholes in that fucking magazine are dealing with that. Like I said, they're dealing with the one-sided version of reality because it's beneficial. Because you don't have to they don't have to take responsibility for anything. They can focus on the fluff. They can sell because they can focus on fluff because they can sell fluff. Fluff is easy to sell. It gets a lot of hits. It gets a lot of likes. Why? Because people are so fucked up and they're so down and out. They don't want to listen to like shit like that I'm talking about. It makes them feel bad. They want to hear something that's going to make them feel good because their 9-to-5 job, their boring ass reality, their empty ass friends and all that other shit, it's down. It feels fucked up and depressing. This is why new age teachers and gurus and spiritualists and all those other fucking assholes that are out there, they're so attractive to people. And this is why things are so fucked up, because they want you to start pushing towards that. So in keeping you in the fluff, keeping you in the one-sided perspective, they can avoid responsibility. If they avoid conversating with you, then they can avoid the responsibility of the perspectives that you're coming from, the history that you're coming from, the ancestral perspectives that you're coming from. If they just say, oh, we're right because we're spiritual and we're focusing on utopia and peace and nonviolence, then that means everybody else is wrong and they just need to follow us. Let's just move forward. Let's move on. This is why this is another reason, another like double back, another double down on the Joe Rogan racism shit. Because they want to define what racism is. And also, in the way they define it, they desensitize you to it. That's why it's being downplayed. That's why they use somebody like Joe Rogan to downplay racism as a whole. Oh, he's not racist. Let me tell you what racism is, black people. Okay, sit down. I got a fucking YouTube channel and I got a suit on, bitch. Like, I'm the one that tells you what racism is. Shut up and listen. You see a blue check mark next to my name? Do you have a blue check mark next to your name? No, you don't. Do you have a PhD in African American studies? No, you don't. So listen to the authorities on what's going on here. Joe Rogan is not a racist. Most people are not even saying that. That's why I said this is about controlling the dialogue and the narrative. It's not about calling him a racist. If you focus all the energy on just calling him a racist and them calling him a racist, then you can avoid the depths of what is racist about the whole situation. If you just focus on the person and whether or not he's racist, then you can avoid the entire discussion of what racism actually is. This is why they made it with Joe Rogan, this likable dude, this man's man, this true American who's in between, Democrats and Republicans, so they can downplay and desensitize you to the depths of what racism, where racism actually came from and how it's existing today. So if they control the narrative of the perspectives that you're coming from, then they can avoid taking responsibility to the depths of where you're coming from. So when they push these New Agers, when they push these utopian mentalities, they can remain in control because those individuals are not dealing with the people in so-called power connected to why things are so fucked up. Like I said earlier, that cheap, limited approach is like a checker game. They're playing chess with you, but your little protest, your little blockade that you got going on, it's only a setup for the system to grow itself. Like people say, to get more of your freedoms taken, you ask for it because you don't know what you're up against. Protesting the system is asking the system to change, as if they give a fuck about you. So in closing, these systems that need to be demolished are being protected by these new age truther communities. The new age is just a cheap movement to emphasize control on a larger scale. It's your Black Lives Matter for humanity, controlled by George Soros, siphoning money and energy back into the system in the name of what we've been having to deal with. Whatever that is. Oh, things are tough? Oh, well, here's your movement. We did it for you. And then once those things are up and running, once they get all those millions of dollars and energy pushed into that system, then they'll be able to activate their Patriot Act on a worldwide scale. What they do with the bullshit ass so-called war on terrorism, bringing in the Patriot Act. Well, what would be the Patriot Act for the world? Just why they're pushing all this war and shit. Like the next war is going to like be making people really think about some shit. Like, come on, what is all this shit? They push another war, they can distract from COVID and move on to another distraction, and then bring in whatever they want to bring in after the war or with the war. And now that they have all your new age gurus and spiritual teachers out there, then they can have a foundation to sit your world government on top of. Because like I said earlier, they've already had your channelers. I've spoken for people who haven't heard it before. The United Nations actually had a channeler from the New Age community. His name is Cryon. You can listen to this shit on YouTube. They've had a channeler in the United Nations. Some like 7 times, probably more than that. I haven't looked into it recently. 7 times. Since this system, since they know it's crumbling, they're going to use it. They're going to use that. The demolishing, the crumbling is also an energy. They're going to and are grabbing onto that energy and moving it. This is the controlled opposition is the controlled demolition. And like I said, truthers are not a threat because they have no interest in the demolition or rebuilding. They're subject-based, subject-oriented. They just want to have you interested, focusing, talking, debating about something. They don't have any goals. There's no direction there. They're only interested in your attention, because your attention, for a lot of these people, your attention gets them paid. And for a lot of other people, your attention gets them like feeling better about themselves. Like a lot of them got a lot of narcissistic tendencies going on. So they'll just have you debating and arguing and going back and forth on subject, jumping back and forth between old subjects and new current event subjects. It's like riding a bike on a treadmill. You're not actually going anywhere, but you're getting a workout. You're thinking, but you're not going anywhere. There's no focus there. And they're perfectly okay with that. Because as long as you're on that bike, on that treadmill, because you think, for individuals who are looking into truther information and in so-called truther communities, you feel like it's you because you're riding a bike, but you're on a fucking treadmill on that bike. And since you haven't worked out for your entire life, and shit, why would you get off the bike? And if you get off of that bike on that treadmill, you're going to have to walk yourself, and you think it's slower. You shouldn't be on the bike or the treadmill. So to close it all out again, to go in some kind of order of what I was talking about through this whole video in reference to the demolition and the threats and the non-threats, the controlled opposition, all that other shit. Politicians obviously are not threats because they work to maintain this system. Their job is to grow this system. People are dealing with politics and politicians and all that other shit. Even so-called progressive politicians don't even bother communicating with them. They have some own personal work to do, and it's not worth it. The next step out of that are protesters. Protesters are also not a threat because they are too busy asking this system, trusting this system, hoping that this system cares about them. The system needs protesters, just like they need politicians. Having protesters makes the system feel big, feel like it's really for the people, because then they can just have these little looking kind of changes. And then you still believe in like the Constitution and all this other shit that's out there. Nah, they need that to make them look real. Just like they need politicians to make them look real. Ultimately, they need you because they need protesters and politicians, because those protesters, they're asking for change, and they believe that that's their only way to make things move. If our politicians are going to do it, then we're going to protest. Hey, you guys are messing up out there, and you need to change your ways. Oh, okay, we'll change our ways. Write up some new shit, and you're like, oh, 10 years later, oh, look what happened. What we thought was for us was actually for more control. Oh, darn it, we did it again. Yeah, yes, you did. And another thing that protesting does, like for the individuals, it makes them feel like they're powerful. Like the protesters feel powerful. And that's a benefit too, because it's an artificial power, because they feel powerful with a boot on their throat. That's not power. It's an illusion. So for people asking about or talking about these trucker protests and all this other stuff, that's great. For you, great. Do what you think is right. For me, I've already done the Occupy movement, the Arab Spring. We've already talked about what needs to be addressed. And like I said, protesters are inherently powerless. If you're asking the system for anything, you're asking for your own enslavement. Nothing different than politicians. When you ask for it, the politicians give it to you. And when those things do so-called change, the changes that do happen are deeper enslavement. And those politicians and those protesters who become politicians get raises in that system. And there's some like millionaires in the Black Lives Matter movement now. They get raised, they get elevated in that system to shut them up. This is like celebrities. They get paid millions of dollars. Why? Because they're so talented? No, because that's hush money. They get paid millions of dollars to keep their fucking mouth shut. And they get them in that egotistical building of that world around them so big. And then they get so big, just like the banks are too big to fail. These individuals are just like big banks. Once they get too big, they don't want to challenge that. They don't want to say anything. So they just keep their mouth shut, keep their heads down, keep moving forward, drop you a little crumbs thinking that they're a part of you and just like you. And they made it in the system. They maintain this system. No, they're all in the enslavement business. And when you buy into these systems, like the truther movement, the New Age movement, and these protest movements that are out there, you're also in the business of enslavement, a more complex version of it. And specifically with truther movements and the New Age movement, they're setting the tone for those movements to go worldwide, for the system of enslavement to go public. It's like franchising enslavement. Right now, you just got a few McDonald's every now and again all over the place, here and there in the United States. But once that McDonald's of enslavement goes worldwide, that's when people are going to get supremely sick. And these controlled oppositions are pushing it right along.